Thursday morning, April the 6th at 10 o'clock, and this is Lancaster Woodturners weekly coffee hour number 146. I'm back home in Lancaster. My complicated setup here is only partly working today. I didn't get at it early enough to fiddle around. So I'm not going to be able to show you some of the pictures I was going to show you today, so I'll get ready to show them next week. This is a show and tell. Let me see what announcements I might have. Saturday morning coming up is open shop at the Lancaster studio. Anybody who's in the area is welcome from 9 to noon. You can come and turn, you can come and watch, you can come and drink coffee, you can come and, there's lots of wood there too. There's wood keeps showing up, and we sell it off real cheap. You just have to donate to the club. Most of it's $1 a block, and nice big bowl pieces are $5, and some of them are $7. So it's a good way to get work. Get a lot of wood. There's some nice walnut there now, and some sycamore, and I don't know, who knows what else. Some sapele showed up the other night. Let me see what else we got. I see a whole bunch of hands up. Any more want to stick your hands up for show and tell? Any more announcements? Randy, what's up with the Susquehanna Club? You got a meeting next Tuesday?
Yes, we do, and it's going to be on embellishment, all forms.
Who's going to do it? Who's going to lead it?
It's not going to be a demonstration. We want everybody to bring their own embellishments in.
Okay.
And show them and explain how they did them.
Nice. That'll be fun.
Yeah, we want a participation.
Cool. Okay. Anybody else with any announcements? Questions? One of the other things I do want to show you guys, and I'll bring in some pictures to do that next week as well. Those of you who log into the club meeting remotely, you'll be quite surprised to see what the setup actually is in the room. And I have some photos to show you that as well next week. Okay, let's go to the gallery here. What would you like to have? Let's see, Michael Brazo, you're up there first. What would you like?
Okay, well, I think you recognize what this is.
Yeah, that's your cone.
That's my velocity stack that was taken from the drawing that oh gosh, I've lost his name. Barry showed.
Jeff also put one up. Jeff Hankinson
in January. So it's my first attempt at segmenting. Pretty crude, and I think probably my last attempt at segmenting. But I haven't got around to testing it yet.
Now you're going to put that on a 6-inch hose. It looks like.
Pardon me.
That's going to go on a 6-inch hose.
4-inch. Yeah. So I'm actually going to put a piece of 1/2-inch hardware cloth. I prevent stuff from going into my dust collector shavings. I try to stop it. Anyway, so I bought a little anemometer, so I'm going to do some crude work. I'm going to make a little holder so my hand doesn't get in the way. Anyway, I'll let you know. The other thing I just wanted to throw out was how many have bought a higher end being, say, I don't know what in US dollars, $350 to $400 battery operated chainsaw with, say, an 18-inch bar and are happy. I'm contemplating it. I'm trying to think. I have a fair amount of dead ash to cut and dead pines. We have a pine beetle knocking out trees, but the other thought.
I have that very saw. I have that very saw, and I don't use it. The reason is that it goes out of control. It doesn't bog down, and I need a saw to bog down when it gets caught. The saw it's way too dangerous for me. Too heavy, too dangerous.
So which one do you have, John?
It's from Lowe's, I guess, and it's got 80 volt. It's got big batteries, and it.
I think I know the one.
Yeah, and I would not buy that again. In fact, I'll sell it to anybody who wants it. I went out again and bought another 14-inch bar or 12-inch bar. I can't remember. That's much more comfortable for an old guy like me.
There's a really good review on the AAW forum. Somebody did a YouTube evaluation that's very extensive. I did a bunch of printouts on weight and motor speed and chain speed, all kinds of things. But
the thing is that even Kevlar, Kevlar trousers, Kevlar chaps will snarl in a gas saw and stop the saw before it cuts you. An electric saw will go right through them.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah. Anyway, just curious. I'm having trouble.
I have a Makita that I like.
How big is it? What battery?
It's two 18-volt batteries.
And that's much more reasonable size than 40-volt batteries or 80-volt batteries.
I didn't want anything big. This is, I believe, a 14-inch bar, and it's been great. I'm a Makita fan, and I have a lot of Makita tools, but this chainsaw suited my needs. I defined the needs before I bought it, and then got the right tool.
This is Alan. I've got the Greenworks, and I think it's got a 14-inch bar, and if I remember correctly, it uses one 40-volt battery. But I'm very happy with it. If it gets, it does. If it's pulling too much, it'll just stop, and then you have to release and start over again. So I'm very happy with the Greenworks that I've got.
Okay. Anybody else?
I have the Echo saw. I think it's a 40-volt also. I'm happy with it.
I was just going to add that in theory, the higher the voltage, the more efficient the saw, because it cuts down the I²R losses.
Okay. Anybody else on the point?
I've got one of the Greenworks ones as well, and I agree with Alan, Jeff Hankinson.
You think it's a good saw as well?
Oh yeah, I'm just using it on poplar and some other like box elder and things like that, and it cuts fine. It bogs down very well, not very easily, but it will bog down if you push it. Like if you're trying to pry against the plastic spikes on the body, you do have to be careful and just let it take its own feed. It's got a 1/4-inch blade, 16-inch bar, and it works just fine for that.
Anybody else?
I will also add that I think my battery life is maybe 20 minutes or so. It's not a long battery life. And so it's not the kind of thing you want to take out to the woods and cut for hours at a time.
Do you also have a gas saw?
I do not.
Yeah.
Used gas in the past.
Yeah, I've got a steel, and I weighed it actually. It's 17 pounds, and it turns out the battery saws aren't that much lighter.
No, they're not.
4 or 5 pounds possibly.
Not even the big ones.
Yeah.
You know.
I used one at a customer's house a while back that was a box store one, and it had a self-sharpening feature on it, which is worthless because all it does is bring a little piece of abrasive material down against the top of the tooth, effectively taking all the clearance out of the tooth. So every time you pushed it, the cut got worse. Avoid that.
Yeah, I can say that I took a chainsaw safety course just a couple of years ago, and the instructor was a fellow who used to run a Husqvarna dealership in Edmonton. Then he sold it, and he takes crews off in the bush to clear cut lines. And he said if he could find a decent way of charging those things in the bush, he would go exclusively electric. And it's a guy who knows gas Husqvarna very well. He loves the little, I think they're 14 or 16-inch bars on those things. And there's a couple of batteries with that style, and he loves the heck out of them.
I think that's the sweet spot, is those 14 or 16-inch ones. You get bigger than that, it's too unwieldy. And the answer to solving charging in the field is buy more batteries and charge them at home. But then the batteries can be at several $100 for some of these saws.
Good. Great. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Doug, what do you have today?
Yeah, I've got a share here. Can you see that?
Yeah, now we got it.
We were talking about the fact that feathering and stuff like that, and what you do about cracking and filling cracks. And I realize this is a controversial subject because some people like to fill cracks and some people don't. But this is a piece of wood, and that I actually had a small cracks in it. You can see the feathering is absolutely beautiful. But I turned it green, and then after it dried, I think this is a pretty common effect, is that when you have that level of feather, the distortion you can't tell which way it's going to distort.
Yeah.
And I ended up, I really didn't want to just throw the piece out, and that's one of the reasons. So this is the finished piece, and if you take a look down at the left hand bottom corner, I'll zoom in on it. You can actually see that there's a little bit of green shows up, and I really don't think that level of epoxy filler or whatever, you can use any color you want, but I don't think that level of epoxy filler actually detracts from the piece at all. Others may decide it's not, but to me, it's just like to get that level of feathering and to get it flat, good luck without cracking. I've also had another, sorry, go ahead.
Doug, I have a question for you on that.
Yeah.
Did you have a foot on it or something, or why did it crack? Did you have a rough?
No, I didn't have a foot on it. Just cracked because of the fact that during the center part of this feathering feature,
Yes. Yes.
was distorting so badly it just couldn't. There's internal stresses that the wood just takes on, and no matter what you do, you know. I have another one to show you a little bit more what I'm talking about, but no, there was no. Sorry, go ahead.
I asked that because I had a big 17-inch London plane that I had turned green and stuck in a box with chips around it, sat on top of my drying cabinet, and boy, it cracked, and I had a little 2-inch foot on it, and I was blaming that. Maybe it was just going to crack anyways. I did what you did. I filled it. I used epoxy and dust, and I'll show it one time when I'm finished with it. Sorry.
Well, if you actually take a look at this, I actually didn't have a foot. It was actually put in mortise instead of a tenon on it. So
yeah. Hey, did you
There's
turn
so much
that?
stress in that kind of wood because that's what's been holding the tree up. And it's just an awful lot of stress to get relieved.
So there was another question there, or was it?
No, go ahead, Doug. Sorry.
A lot of this has to do with the tangential to radial shrinkage values. Now, London plane is the same genus, different species as sycamore here. And sycamore is very high. It's like 2.5 to 1. Where, you take maple or something like that, it's 1.75 to 1.
Yeah, and I think you're right, Ernie. This is a piece of cherry, actually, I believe. But again, my thing about this, what you're saying about the shrinkage, is the tangential versus other shrinkage. We've got about 3 different directions of shrinkage, all of that center line there, which means that it's impossible to sort of predict what's going on. This is another one to show you what Ernie's talking about that I did that. I'm not so pleased with this one, but it's still another one where the feathering and the grain came across with epoxy. By the way, the little ruler at the bottom is 6 inches to give you a size on it. And then again, distorted all to get out even after it dried. So that's one of my, I don't know if it's a frustration or whatever. Some people like it. Others say, well, it's not flat, therefore it's not a platter. And I'm thinking of actually putting these on a small stand or something so that it doesn't have to sit flat so that it's on the table. And finally, another one. This is one that I had that had a crack in it along one side. So rather than actually discarding the piece, I cut it and filled it with epoxy, filled it back together with epoxy, so that if you take a look through it, it actually is transparent through that section. And again, it's sort of fun to have.
Those are really pretty. Those are nice pieces.
Thank you. And this is the last one. This is a piece of walnut that I made. This is about an eighth of an inch, maybe 3/16 of an inch thick, all the way through. And I had it up for sale, and some yabo dropped it. And as a result of that, there's a very fine crack on one side, and I'll be damned if I can get that back together again. So there's no way of gluing that. And again, it just shows you how much stress, even though you may think that it's all out of there, that's offset by 3/16 or an eighth of an inch there, and just because of the tension in the wood. So anyway,
Doug, I had mine cracked and the pieces separated by about 1/4 of an inch. They wouldn't line up anymore. I'm not talking about the width, I'm talking about the offset. I stuck it on my workbench, stuck a clamp on to force it so that those pieces had to line up, and then I CA'd it. And I said, well, it might fly apart, but it held while I was sanding and turning it. So yeah, I got it lined up by forcing it. So,
But then you've just put the stress right back into it and it's likely to come apart again.
well, I won't sell it to anybody. I'll give it to a friend I don't like. No, I'm just kidding. So,
Well, and the problem I had with this one is it was so thin already that there's not a lot
Yeah.
to hold it back again.
yeah.
The CA would probably hold it. I'm going to show you another couple pieces since I got the floor. This is another piece where people would just say it's a junk piece of wood. I picked it out of Bob Hollister's sawmill. We were cleaning up one corner and there's a piece of sitting there and it was just full of worms. And so all this was full of just, it looked flat and it was dust, worm dust. And I took a dental pick and picked out all the dust out of all the wormholes. It took quite a while to do that, but I really liked the effect that the worms left behind. And again, it would have been a firewood for some folks, I guess. And last but not least, that's a 32-inch diameter platter of a walnut trunk or root that I got from Ben Kaufman. Again, the feather in that was just fantastic. So,
And do you see that as a platter or a sculpture that's a wall piece, or how is that? How do you?
well, it's hung up on a wall piece in my house at the moment, and my daughter has dibs on it. So she says when she moves it into her own place, she's going to use it as a wall piece as well.
Yeah, I think that's its best use as a wall piece.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could take it down and use it as a platter, but it's like, who's going to use a platter that size when it really comes into it?
How big is that, Doug?
It's 32 inches in diameter.
In diameter? How'd you find a root that big?
Well, Ben Kaufman said he got it from some Amishman out in Ohio, where he had some fairly big walnut trees around, I guess, where they cut them down. So brought it in.
He has a bunch of that, or had a bunch of that in his shop. Yeah.
Yes, and now I have a bunch of it in my shop. Because I don't have so many platter pieces like that. I got some fair size platter. I got another platter made that I made out of this, which is just a straight grain. And again, it's a beautiful looking piece. You can use it as either a wall hanging or a platter. The problem is you got to find a customer that wants a platter that big. So,
How thin? How thin?
How thin?
Yeah, how thick or thin?
I think. Well, that's. I think it's between probably around 3/8 of an inch or something like that along the edge. I didn't measure it. I couldn't measure it down in the middle, to be honest.
I think that's the one we did a video of you making this a couple of years ago, which I can probably find someplace.
It could well be. I think so, John. Anyway, so that's my share, guys.
Okay.
Hey, John, can I dovetail into what Doug just did? Because I want to talk about the same kinds of things.
I was going to go to you next anyway, and then Judy Stone and Dave Belisle, and then Jeffrey Carroll. And what I'm going to go picking on is people who haven't been showing, as opposed to people who show every week. I hope that doesn't offend anybody, but that's where we go. If you're done, Doug, I'm going to go to Ken.
Yes, I'm finished. Thank you very much.
You're on, Ken.
Okay, well, last night we had a Nittany Valley Woodturner meeting, and Toby was there, by the way, which was fun to see. And we have a really pretty good wood auction. We have a lot of nice wood around Center County. And I was able to pick up a mulberry Y. I don't know if you can see this.
Oh, yeah.
And I was real happy with it because it has the couple of things that I always look for. You can see the U shape, which I think is very productive. And it also has a little bulge here, which gives it a little bit of extra meat, so you get a little nicer bowl, a little deeper bowl. So I have a couple of these. I've been doing a lot of them lately. Here's another one, and you can see that I've drawn out the circle for it.
Could you maybe back up from the camera a bit so we can see some more? Yeah, and lift it up a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Now we see what you got.
Okay, so you can see the circle that I've drawn, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get out that far on this one. But again, it has the same characteristics. I like the U shape, and I like a little bit of bulge if I can find it. Here's another one that's interesting because it has another branch coming out of it, which I'm not really sure what I'm gonna get and what it's gonna look like, but it's gonna be interesting. And it's gonna be about the same size. That's about 9 inches there.
Are you gonna bandsaw that before you put it on the lathe?
Yeah, I'll bandsaw it and before I put it in the lathe. And then I wanted to show you a couple of examples. I have a,
Ken, before you move on, Alan here, you split those with a chainsaw or a bandsaw?
yeah, I carefully do it with a chainsaw.
Chainsaw, thank
I
you.
have a really nice setup. I bought a plastic piece that's kind of V-shaped that has small steps into it. And I can wedge it in there really well. And I draw a line and then I nick the corners and I just kind of aim for it. It doesn't always come out perfect, but I make up for it whenever I go ahead and saw it. Or
Sure, no,
put
thank
it
you.
on the lathe. Yep, yeah, good question. So here's kind of, let's see, I'll start with this one. This is honey locust, and it came out real nice. The same kind of thing. You can see this one kind of went a little bit oval on me, but there are no cracks and it's fairly straight. I didn't see too much warping in it. Okay, pretty happy with that. Again, I kept the natural edge.
And you've got a high sheen on that. What finish do you use?
This one has lacquer on it. It's just spray can lacquer on it.
Is that once turned?
Yeah, this is once turned. Once turned.
And you left the tenon on as a foot?
Yeah, I left the tenon on as a foot, and it was a little bit longer, and I just took it down. I just took it down to where I could made a little bit more sense. Here was another one that was, I won't say a failure, but not exactly what I wanted. This is an oak, and it had some tension in it. I don't really get too much problem with tension, but I don't know if you can see right here, there's a little bit of a split. So I never really finished this piece, but it's pretty close. But you can just see, let me see if you can just see the Y a little bit here. It didn't come out. Not all of them are successful when you do it. This one had a little bit of a failure, but it's okay.
I used to argue that's wood. It's going to do that. And if you don't want it to do that, you should just go turn plastic. But then that's what people do. They pour these things full of plastic and turn plastic. So I don't know.
This is true. And the last piece, I did a couple more. I think you have a slide of one, but we don't have to show that next week. And here was a walnut one that I had done. See if I can put that up there.
We can't quite see inside there. Yeah.
Can you see that?
It's not coming into focus, I think. Well, hello, Mr.
Whoops. Sorry about that. That's funny.
That's a nice piece again. What's the back of that like, Ken?
Yep, here's the back of it here.
Also nice. That's a nice foot. Very, very
That's a
pretty foot.
it's a real, if you look at it, it's real nice and round this way. And when you turn it around, it's kind of a heart shape, which is nice.
Nice piece.
How did you hold it to turn that nice round foot down?
You can see right here what I did.
No, I meant, I thought you reversed it to turn the foot. So
No, I didn't. I put a recess in here and I held it that way. I try everything. Sometimes I'll do a foot, sometimes a 10, mortise, sometimes a tenon. So you never know. But I've done, of all these I have, so there's at least one more on the other side that I've either given away or sold. So they're a lot of fun to do. I think they're my favorite pieces. Plus, you can pick up those pieces really easy because when people are doing chainsaw work for their firewood, they don't want to have to deal with those things because they don't split very well.
Right.
So I can usually hear the chainsaw go over and get a couple of pieces of those.
And how many cats do you have? I've seen 2 so far.
Oh, well, too many, I guess. Oh, she's back. She's a real camera hog. Here, you can show off.
Oh, I have one like that too. Yeah.
She came from my mother-in-law, so we inherited her cats too.
I see you dyed her eyes with transient blue.
So that's all. I did have a question too. I have a piece that I don't quite know what to do with. This is a piece of maple, And it's kind of thin, and I like the shape on the outside. It's a nice piece. But I like the bowl shape that I made, and I don't want to make it too, I don't want to make it too deep, but I think it's just kind of plain looking. And I didn't know if I should do some embellishments along this edge. I was just looking for some advice on what to do with it.
I kind of like it the way it is, but it could exactly embellish that edge. That's a lot of people would do exactly that.
I've never done much embellishment. I didn't know what to do with it. Should I put color on it? Should I just put some stripes on it? Give me some clues.
Sounds like you ought to show up to the Susquehanna meeting next Tuesday, because that's what they're going to talk about.
Good idea. Good idea.
I think the answer is yes, you do embellishment and just try one, because no matter what you want, as soon as you start, you're going to try a different, it'll give you other ideas.
Yeah, that's true.
I'd use a Sorby texturing tool on it, on that beveled edge.
I
agree with you, Jim.
I was real close to the bottom. You can hear.
Yeah.
So it's real close. It's probably got about a little more than a 16th at the bottom. So I can't do too much down there.
Well, good.
And that's all I got. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Ken. Judy Stone, what do you have today?
I have 3 pieces. You'll be astonished. So this is the first one. I was going to make Elijah's cup and Miriam's cup for Passover. It was my first goblet, and
That's that's a beer goblet. That one. It's a meaty goblet.
I would have liked this thinner. Actually, I decided this was Miriam's, and I would make Elijah's taller and skinnier. But anyway, that's number 1. That's my first goblet. Number 2, I made a Gerald's last week, and
that's a nice piece. That's
yeah, I'm not crazy about the grayish color here, but on this side, I love the spalting on this side, and I'm very pleased with how it came out.
Very nice.
Thank you.
What's the problem with the grayish color? That's in the wood, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
That's what it is. It's wood.
Yeah, as I say, I really like this side.
That's a very
that would sell like crazy around here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm pleased with the shapes that came out.
Is that hollow inside or just drilled down or not at all?
It's just drilled down.
Yeah.
It's
Very
just,
nice.
So, and then this started out very nicely. Wangi, that one of Mark's friends.
Yes, Wangi.
Yeah, and it turned into my first funnel.
Oh. There you go.
So my question for you, I was trying to make a little curve on the bottom so it would sit flat on the edge. Do you have any suggestions for how to fix that?
Sure. Cut a nice recess around, chuck it so you can cut a nice recess in the bottom and put another piece of wood in there.
We tried putting a piece of the wangi and couldn't get it to line up.
Well, you have to make a recess that it'll exactly fit into. You can't just glue a patch on that bottom.
Okay. Anyway, otherwise came out pretty well.
I think the same color wood as a disc on the bottom would not look bad at all.
That's right.
It ties the two together. The light colored wood through the middle and then a disc horizontal on the bottom.
Yeah.
I think you should just name it a box surprise. When somebody opens up, you say, surprise, there's a hole in the bottom.
When you talk about the disc, are you talking about something that doesn't fit the entire bottom, or what?
No, something that fits the entire bottom. So when you look at it from the outside, you'll see that horizontal plane meeting the vertical planes with the same colored wood.
Okay.
Yeah, I would do that.
Hey, Judy, can we see your second one again? The one that was drilled down. I want to look at the top one more time.
Sure.
Yeah, you have a little bit of a bevel. What if you made that steeper? And it's kind of like a cheating of the drilled down hollow form, you know. But it's nice as is. I just wanted to see it to see how much it went down. So
Yeah, not, I could have gone steeper. I chose to quit while I was ahead.
Yeah, you
Always
could put a
wise.
glass liner in it for bud
Yep.
a green
Mhm.
fresh flower bud vase.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Very nice work, Judy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've made many of those bud vases, and everybody talks about putting a glass liner in, but they're too easily broken. I use plastic test tubes.
Plastic tubes.
Yeah, and they have a little rim around the top of them, so they only go down so far. And they sit right-
Probably better because when you hand one to somebody, they turn it upside down, look at the
Exactly.
bottom, and the glass slides out, right?
Yep. Yep.
Pretty much every time.
Or
else,
do what
or else
Doug
the hood
does.
moves and crushes the glass. I've seen that happen too.
The one other interesting thing that happened with this is we tried stabilizing it with CA glue, and that turned out disastrously, and we had to get rid of the CA glue. Tried that twice.
We had a visit when I was in Asheville. We had a lunch with the Ellsworths, and David showed us a piece that he had where the wood was all punky. He had left it unfinished, and where the wood was solid, he had made it smooth. And the contrast in the two surfaces in the piece was very interesting. It was attractive. It wasn't unattractive at all. Instead of trying to cure that punky wood with CA glue, the point is he instead said, "Okay, this is punky wood. We're going to treat it differently." So I might have a little video of that. I'll find it and see if I can get it together.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Judy. Dave Belisle, how about you?
Last week you talked about miniatures, so I had a piece of wood and I made a small miniature bowl. Kept the foot 1/3 diameter. The whole diameter of this is 2 inches, and the thickness is about 3/4 of an inch. And the question is, what do you do with it? That's what my wife asked. I don't know what to do with it.
Tell her to put her earring backs in it.
Yeah. And then I think I mentioned this, somebody gave me a egg magnet and she lamented that she couldn't find the half eggs. So I glued some cherry together with a paper bag in between so I could make 2 separate halves for her. I gave her about, I guess I gave her about a dozen of those. So it'd be 24 halves. Here's an egg I made a long time ago for my, about 6 years ago for my grandchild. One of them, they all have them, and they're just a hollow egg to put candy in and stuff like that. And then the last thing is the I guess you lost me there.
Oh, you're
Is
there. You're okay.
The last thing is the little space ship that I made using Kai's idea. Thank you, Kai. And this is has my grandson's name on it, called the Starship. And the light lights up. It's a balloon light. And in the chat, I'm going to put my email. If you're not a member of our local group, just text me or email me and I'll send you the instructions on how to do that. And thank you very much.
Hey, thanks, Dave. Questions for Dave?
Dave, the other night on the club meeting, I wondered, could you make, I don't know the size perspective, could you use one of those little white tea lights for the light in the middle instead of a balloon light, which I don't quite know what is?
In my opinion, that would be way too big. The
Okay.
balloon light is very, very small. And I have it in here, so all you have to do is turn it. And the balloon lights you can get at Hobby Lobby. So take a look sometime, you'll see the size. I think that's what you want. Thanks for your question.
Anybody else?
Thank you, everyone. I learned so much just listening to everyone. Thanks so very much.
Glad to see you. Jeffrey Carroll, how about you?
first attempt at a hollow form. It's a piece of ash. The pith cracked, but ran up here. Have a finial.
And how hollow is that? How far down in there did you get?
It's all the way to the bottom, and it's about 3/8 of an inch thick all the way.
Nice work. What did you use for hollowing tools?
A friend of mine has a Lyle Jameson tool that I used. I think he had a John Jordan hollowing actual tool on it, but the system was a Lyle Jameson. Worked really well. And I'm not sure that this is a piece of ash, but I'm not sure of the discoloration, if it's just wet and drying or bruised grain. I don't know what caused the discoloration, but
Did it have a laser on it, on the hollowing?
no, he did not have the laser. It was all by feel.
My hat's off to you.
Yeah, nice work. You got anything else?
No, that was it.
Just a question for folks. I noticed that you're asking about the discoloration. Is there any chance that you were riding the bevel just a little bit on the hard side and it caused the bruising of your wood?
I don't think so. I mean, it's pretty smooth. Although, I didn't have any problems with it.
I've just noticed for myself, as if I get a little bit hard on the bevel, sometimes on lighter woods, it leaves a dark spot like that. So thank you.
I think that's some kind of bruising is what I've always considered it, but I never know. I've had the same thing in light colored wood sometimes.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And it seems to have dried out some, gotten lighter in spots since I turned it. It's probably 3 weeks old now, so
it may do some more changing before it's done. Okay, thank you, Jeff. Okay, we're back to the regulars. Kai, your turn.
Yeah, right. Thank you. I just want to share a photo with you I showed 2 weeks ago to explain something. Just try to do that now. Okay. I think Jim asked about how to balance the workpiece. So that was the workpiece, and I had to counterbalance it here. And I think, Jim, you asked at what speed do you do the balancing, or find out how many washers you need to put on the other side. And I said, well, use a speed as low as possible. But then I remembered later on that the initial balancing was done with the belt on the lathe removed, and then this works just like scales. So you try to balance it, adding more washers, and then turning it a little bit by hand, and see in what position it will stop. And once you've done that initial balancing, you can try to use the motor, or put the belt back on and use the motor at the lowest speed possible, and then see how far you can get up the speed without having vibrations or pieces flying off or whatever. So just take it very easy. And my lathe is quite heavy and it's bolted to the floor, so that helps as well. That's just what I wanted to add. And
what you're talking about there is the difference between static balance and dynamic balance. And anybody who's ever worked in a tire shop can tell you all about that.
Yeah. So static balance first, and then dynamic balance very carefully. So that's just what I remembered after you asked the questions. I said just use the lowest speed possible, but first I balanced it, and then later on I put the belt back on and tried how far I can get up with the speed. And I also have got, yeah, sorry?
What would be your maximum speed on that, Kai?
I don't remember exactly, maybe 200, 300, 400 RPM, something like this. So I go up very, very slowly. And
I've managed to get up to 400, maybe 500, but after that, the whole thing is shaking and walking. So, yeah, I agree with you, Kai.
It depends on how good your balancing or counterbalancing is, and then on how steady your lathe is, and where you have vibration in the setup. Because when I go up with the speed at my lathe, I have certain frequencies where I get a little bit of vibration, and when I'm going a little bit higher or further down again, the vibration is gone. So that seems to depend as well on the lathe and on the setup. So it's difficult to do or to give a general speed, but actually what you do is you go up as slowly and then as far as possible, see what your lathe does, how it reacts, and then yeah.
I think you're also getting some flutter in the, that looks like a particle board or MDF plate. And I think at around some speed in there, that's going to start to flutter.
Yes.
Oh, it's rather thick, and that was not a problem with that bit. Maybe with others, but with that it works all right. Yeah, and I've also got a little PowerPoint presentation about
Can I just make
tippy tops.
Can I just make one last comment, Kai, on your
of course.
outboard turning? This is one of the cases where speed is less important than a very sharp tool, because if you're doing 400 RPM on this piece and your tool is very sharp, you'll get a very clean cut. So you don't need to try and get speed to get your cut cleaner. I think it's very critical to make sure your tools are very sharp when you're doing this.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Kai, thank you. Removing the belt is, I guess, a bonus of those guys who have lathes that are driven by belts. I'm not sure my DVR would be loose enough to do a static balancing, but I'd have to go out and check it. That intrigues me. So.
Okay, right. Thank you then. So is that okay for you, the PowerPoint now?
Yep.
Yep.
You can see it? Yeah, great. So these are the tippy tops, a part of the tippy tops I made. And first of all, a little bit of a video for those who are not familiar with tippy tops. I slowed down the video a little bit in the middle. So first you see it real speed, then just keep watching the stem of the tippy top, and then it's slow down and then real speed again. But you'll see. Okay, I speed that up a little bit here. Yeah. And that's one thing to, that's one thing to look for with tippy tops after turning them. When you put them on a flat surface, they should stand with the stem pointing up. It could lean maybe a little bit, but just a tiny bit. If it kind of falls over, it won't tip when you spin it. So that is one thing, or one indicator for a tippy top that will really work, that if you put it on a surface, the stem will be in the position as at the end of that video when it stopped turning. But there are a few other things to look out for that I would like to show you. Some design considerations. This is in German, but I try to explain it in English. If you look at the tippy top, that is a circle here. So, and if you put your compass into this spot here and then kind of draw your circle, you have the geometric center here. And the center of mass is a little bit lower, or has to be a little bit lower for the tippy top to tip over later on. And the center of mass is the following idea. If you concentrate all the mass of the tippy top in one point, you get to this center of mass here. And to get the center of mass below the geometric center, you remove a little bit of wood up here and on the other side, of course, as well, because it's 3-dimensional. And also, which you can see on the other side here, you hollow out the tippy top, and that removes mass from the top, and so your center of mass goes down as well. Concerning the shape, a circle or a sphere will work really well with tippy tops, but you get away with taking a little bit more wood away here so that the sphere is a little bit squashed on the downside. But still, you don't want it to be flat here, and you want to have a continuous curve. So that is best, but this will also work. What will not work in tippy tops, and I know that from experience, I can't give any science explanations for that, but what will work not is if you have a tippy top that's not a circle, but a circle with a little bit, oh, sorry, back, a little bit of wood sticking out here. So that will not work. Even if you just have a little bit of a point at the tippy top down here, it will spin on the point. It won't turn over. And it doesn't have to be a point. If it's just a little bit of material that's too much down here, and that easily happens when you turn the sphere and then you turn away the last little bit and then you sand it, and you are careful, don't leave a bump here. So it needs to be a circle, or rather take a little bit more off, but not less. Toby, you want to comment? No.
No.
No. I just saw your hand up. Sorry, that was for your part. I'm sorry. Okay. Right. So the dimension, these are in millimeters here, but that doesn't matter that much, I guess. 24 millimeters, about one inch. So it's that's a rather small one. You can make them bigger and still spin with your fingers. Yeah, 24 millimeters in diameter, and the stem is 6 millimeters in diameter. That's a quarter of an inch roughly, and the length of the stem that is outside the main body of the tippy top is about the diameter divided by 2 or divided by 3. I try to get away with 2.5. So if you divide 24 by 2.5, you have about 10 millimeters here that the stem is long outside the main body of the tippy top. Okay. The wood to use is, if you want to color it later on, it's good to use a dense wood that is light in color. I used some pieces from an old children's bed that was given to me, and I cut it apart, and someone had painted it white, but just I removed the white color. So that is beech, but sycamore or sycamore or maple or other light colored woods will work as well. Right, now how to turn it. I made a template to mark my lines here. The most important is this one. That is kind of the equator of the sphere. So I want to leave that when I turn the tippy top. I don't want to touch that, so that I still get my nice sphere here, and made a radius template as well for my 24 millimeters or 12 millimeter radius, 24 millimeters diameter. Next, I turn away some wood here, and somewhat at the other side where the stem is going to be, just to define my sphere. And then I shape the sphere and cut away a little bit more wood here, which actually leaves the stem a little bit longer, but I will shorten that later on. Then I hollow it out with a homemade scraper. Yeah. So here you have to be a little bit careful not to break off the stem. And I check this radius here frequently, so I get the shape right. And oh, okay. Then I part it off and rechuck it again in a collared chuck. This I have to change or swap the collets. This is a 30 millimeter collet, half an inch collet, and then here the 6 millimeter collet or a quarter of an inch collet to hold it by the stem. And then you can rework the bottom of your tippy top body and make sure that there's nothing, no point here, and it's a nice curve. And when or if it doesn't turn over nicely and the stem is a little bit long, I just have this disc here with a hole drilled in, also 6 millimeters. I put it over here, and then I sand away what the excess wood of the stem that I don't want.
And that stem is flat, not curved.
It is flat, and in my experience, flat stems work really well. Sometimes these stems are a little bit curved, which still works. If it's really like half a sphere, it doesn't work well. Normally, it works best in my experience if it's just flat and it will rotate here on this circle. We can have a look later on at the video again. You will see that it turns on there and not in the middle of the stem.
Yeah.
Okay, then I burn these rings in here using a wire that I hold into a V-shaped groove that I made before, just to burn in these rings and to separate the colors from each other. As it is only held by the stem in this collet chuck, you could support it with the tailstock if you wanted to give it a bit more stability. I do that now. I don't do it in this photo, but I do it now. And then I use Tombow markers to color it in. Yeah, and that's the finished tippy top. I think that's it. Yeah, and we can have.
Very nice show.
Yeah.
Very nice show. Yeah.
Nice guy.
Is there time to have a quick look at how it turns on the stem, or shall we do Toby's?
Give it the last quick look, and then we'll give Toby, and if we go over a minute, we go over a minute.
Okay, just have a quick look here. Yeah. So maybe now you can see it. It turns on these circumference of the stem.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. That's it. So I stop the chair then.
Great.
Are there any questions or?
I've seen somewhere that folks make the stem, hollow it out, and then drill a hole and put in a dowel. What do you think about that approach?
Okay, that's the second way to do it. This tippy top was made of one piece of wood, and I like to do that when I demonstrate wood turning, because then I don't have to glue in the stem and wait till the glue has set and things like that. But of course, you can make them in two pieces, and so the main body is one piece, and then you drill a hole in the center for the stem to glue it in, and you could put a ball of a ball bearing into the hole and then glue in the stem just to get some more weight at the bottom of the tippy top, or to move the center of mass further down. But I think it's not really necessary. If you hollow it out enough, it will turn nicely. the question is a little bit whether if you want it to spin on the stem for a long time, you need it to flip over or to turn over quickly, because the initial impulse you give the tippy top is divided between the time it turns before it is sitting on the stem or standing on the stem, and the time after. And maybe it tips a little bit more quickly if you have more mass at the bottom. But in general, they work in one piece without putting some additional weight under in the hole of the stem. Yeah, I like doing them in one piece. Doing them in two pieces, maybe it's a little bit more economical if you do a lot of them and you want to sell them.
Yeah, I had a friend who did that, and I drew a little picture. He actually used to put washers at the bottom, just a small flat washer. And he always claimed that he never had a problem with it being a tippy top, because sometimes the balance is a little bit off, but he never had any problems.
He's putting weight in the bottom again. He's shifting center of mass lower in the top. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I experimented a little bit. Came to the measurements I showed in the presentation, and these work well if you turn a sphere or a sphere that is a little bit squashed, and then my 10mm stem always seems to work. So if you scale it up or down, maybe you have to experiment again a little bit. But in general, they all work. And the nice thing about the collar chuck is that you can remount the tippy top and do some more work on the outside of the body if you don't get the curve right. And then once you see that it actually flips over, then you can put it back and do your decoration, so that you don't have to turn into the decoration if it doesn't work the first time. So that is a handy thing as well. If you don't have a collar chuck, you could always use the little bit of wood that stays in your chuck, drill a hole into it, and then have a press fit for the stem and push it into this hole, and then rework the outside. That works as well. But I find it easier in this case if you have drills that go up maybe 1/10 of a millimeter in Germany, just a little bit more or less, then you can adjust your drill hole to the actual size of your stem, and you don't have to adjust or match the diameter of the stem to an existing drill hole. So it's easier to drill a hole that fits your stem than the other way around. Okay, I stop here. So otherwise,
Kai, how large can you make them and still tip over?
I've got one that's about 4 inches in diameter, and that will still tip over. The only problem here is you cannot start it as a finger top. You have to use a string to start it, and it will dance quite wildly, or can be some chaotic. So you need a lot of space. Otherwise, it will bump into your furniture really quickly, and you better do it on the floor, not on the table, because it will jump off the table. I think I have a video somewhere on my bigger spinning top turning or spinning. I can show that sometime. Okay. Yeah, right. Thanks for listening.
Okay, thank you very much. Toby, you want to jam in with what you got for a minute or two, or do you want to hold on to it? What would be more fun for you?
Well, I think I can do this quick.
Go for it.
Here we go. Now, I had this piece at the Nittany Valley Woodturners last night, and we had a very nice meeting there, and I enjoyed it, and everybody seemed to participate, and I was really impressed. So this is elm burl at the natural edge, and the size is 9.5 by 4 inches. Here's a side view.
Oh, nice.
Interesting grain pattern in this wood.
That's the view we wanted right there. Nice foot too.
I have a bottom picture. Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay, and then this is my standard die piece. This is maple. Oh, this I put a little bit of yellow in these burl eyes here before I put blue over top. So that's a little bit of green, kind of subtle, but it adds a little something to it.
Very pretty. Nice.
This particular wood has really nice figure in it that streaks up down here. When I add the dye, it really brings it out.
It really sharpens it up.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you can see the yellow areas that turn green when I put the blue on top. Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, beautiful work, Toby. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Take the spotlight off you. And since we're a little bit after 11, I'm going to pull the plug on you all. See you all next week. Thank you for your participation and your questions and your comments and your eager attention.
Happy Easter, everyone.
Thank
Yep.
you, John.
Yeah.
Thank you,
happy
John.
Easter. Thank you,
Thank
John.
you, everybody.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bye.
See y'all.
Enjoyable as always.
Everybody else.
And happy Passover to others.
Yes.
Happy Easter, Michael.
Yeah. Take care, Don.
Take care.
Hi to Elaine.
Good meeting, John. Thank you. Hey, John, I don't think you need to show my slides for next, or my pictures from next week.
Well, they'll still like to see them. So,
Okay, because it's just kind of a repeat of what we did today.
yeah. But there's endless interest in this whole question of how do we manage feather figure and get that kind of splashy grain, and you've got a nice piece there. Anyway,
Okay.
if I can get the computer, this computer setup it just needs some work, and we'll
Hey,
save you
John.
next week too, Jim.
I have a funnel save that I want to show next week.
Cool, that's a good one. Bye, y'all.
Thanks.
Bye.
Good meeting.
Take care.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Thanks much.
Happy Easter, all.
Wood shop. Thank God for wood.